Vajiram and Ravi has been still there even during my mains preparation, during both my attempts 2023-24. I started my preparation in 2018 here as a foundation batch student, and finally I'm again back here 6 years later. The life has come full circle finally. I post-graduated actually in year 2018. After that I came to Vajiram and Ravi, as the name has always been there, where I was completely clueless कि क्या करना है क्या नहीं. And that year I think, but I think ये join किया test series मैंने, and we had those regular feedback sessions.
GS
we had GS. I was enrolled for the GS thing. I had that regular feedback session after every copy that was checked. We had those mentoring sessions going on. So उससे पता चलता था what is wrong, where I should add on, what is the changes I need to make, etc. So it went like that, and I really scored good in GS. Last year also it was 435 marks in GS 1, 2, 3, 4.
Vanakkam dear brothers and sisters. I hope your UPSC examination preparations are going on the positive track. Firstly, I wish you all the best for the upcoming examination. Let me introduce myself. I'm B. Sivachandran. In the recently concluded UPSC Civil Services examination, I've secured All India rank 23. My optional subject was Commerce and Accountancy. I secured 260 marks in the Commerce and Accountancy paper, with 138 coming from paper 1 and 122 coming from paper 2. I thought the optional subject Commerce and Accountancy is a rare one. Unlike other optional subjects like Sociology, PSI or Anthropology, the number of aspirants taking the subject is very limited. So during my preparation days, I had the paucity of guidance, because especially from the part of the country from where I am hailing from, the number of takers are limited. I thought if I could share my experiences during the course of the preparation, it would be of much help to your preparation strategies and your track. I'll try to break down whatever I am going to share in the next 7-8 minutes into different aspects, so that you can refer to them at your own comfort in an easier and a better manner. So I have multiple aspects to share. First is the decision to choose this option, that is Commerce and Accountancy. What made me choose this option? Secondly, when to start preparations for optional. Thirdly, how to integrate our optional preparation with the general studies paper. Fourthly, the study materials that would be required for covering this entire subject. Then the tips, tricks subject wise. Then finally, the miscellaneous things which I used in order to enhance my score in the optional subject. So coming to the first aspect as to why I chose this optional subject. My qualification is I've done my BCom and I'm a qualified chartered accountant and company secretary. So since my 11th grade, I have been studying this subject, Commerce, Accountancy and Economics. So I always had the natural flair for the subject and also the basic expertise in the subject. When I went through the syllabus of Commerce and Accountancy, it was of CA intermediate level. So I thought if I could take up this option, I will have multiple benefits. One is that I already have grown expertise in the subject. Secondly, I would be saving time if I'm going to take up this option, and the saved time can be put into general studies and other subjects. And third thing is that I had good guidance in terms of my seniors, and also there were few coaching institutes that were offering materials and coaching institute the mock test in the subject. So I decided to take up this optional subject. So now that I've put forward the reasons as to why I chose Commerce and Accountancy, the second and third aspects which I wanted to cover was with respect to the optimal timeline for the Commerce and Accountancy preparation, the integration of optional preparation with general studies preparation. The optimal timeline for the entire UPSC preparation would be T-1. If the exams are to be conducted, the prelims exams are to commence in June 2026, the ideal time for beginning the preparation would be 2025 May, June. So 1 year of time is required, and it is important that right at the outset we commence our optional preparations, because unlike other general studies paper, as the name suggests, are generic and which needs superfluous knowledge, optional subjects required deep and profound knowledge. It needs greater expertise, because the level of expertise that is needed is of UG honors levels as mentioned in the UPSC syllabus, and also commencing a particular optional right at the starting stages of preparation will also give us the sufficient buffer time. If one were to find the optional subject challenging, they can always turn to a different optional subject. They will be knowing if it is challenging within 1 or 1.5 months time. So they'll have sufficient time of 10, 11 months to change their option also if it would be required. As far as commerce and accountancy option is concerned, for a person who has completed BCom, is a solid 3 months of committed study for the commerce and accountancy option will help you build strong foundation and fundamentals for the subject. And also this 3 months of study will also help you in making note making for those who feel that they have already well read in the subjects, especially those who have recently qualified in the CA examinations. Maybe the 3 month time would be 1.5 or 2 months. But I would suggest that dedicate solid of 3 months preparation, because the preparation should be holistic. Not only one time study would be sufficient, because this is a marathon race. Once you study for the exam, you should be retaining the topics for next 1.5 2 years. In that case, it is needed that you have to go through the topics multiple times and also make sufficient notes to enable you to revise it. So I would suggest take 3 months of time for the preparation, that is full-fledged preparation for the commerce and accountancy optional. Then integrating it with GS for studying commerce and shifting to GS without any mixture of the optional subjects, I wouldn't be advising it. Both should go hand in hand. I would suggest that you dedicate equal time for GS and optional in any given particular day. The reason being that if we are to leave a particular topic, leave the optional subject unattended for long periods of time, we will lose all the gains that we have made in the subject. So what I'm trying to explain is that if we are to study this commerce and accountancy for 3 months, and if we are to close the books and leave it untouched for the next 3-4 months for preparing fully towards general studies, we'll forget almost all the topics that we have learned in commerce and accountancy. So as and when you are reading the general studies topic, also try to refresh all the concepts that you have done with commerce and accountancy. Maybe you can revise all the challenging topics, all the topics that you found voluminous, the topics which generally receive higher weights in the UPSC examinations. So you can keep refreshing and revising these topics so that you keep a tab also on the commerce and accountancy optional apart from studying the general studies paper. So now coming on to the fourth aspect and the most important aspect, I want to share the study materials which I use for my preparation, and also the strategies which helped me in scoring the marks which I had scored, that is 260. For this optional, there are multiple coaching institutes offering their materials. Currently, I think there are 3. Though there are many, 3 are the prominent ones. One is the Rankers classes, then second is Diademy, third is Vajiram. I took study material guidance from Rankers classes. I did not attend any coaching for the subject because I already had qualification as a chartered accountant and company secretary. But I did subscribe for the postal course of study materials from Ranker, wherein I got specific set of texts for every subject, like financial accounting, taxation. All the 10 subjects we had different booklets, so which had comprehensive sets of numericals as well as theories. That had high relevance to the UPSC commerce examination. So these were the broad materials that I had used. Secondly, since during my CA preparation days, I did multiple readings of the CA Institute books, which are of standard quality. So those books as well I used during my preparation, because though the numericals have been given in Ranker's materials, I felt at times the diversity was lacking. So in order to ensure that I practice all kinds of sums before going to the examination hall, I also utilize the CA study material. So and there is something called the practice manual, which was a compendium of previous year questions, CA previous year questions. It has all kinds of sums in it. Take amalgamation in financial accounting, you have close to 60-65 sums. So if one were to practice and solve such number of sums, then ideally you would be covering all kinds of adjustments, and you will not be having any surprises on the examination day. Then now coming to specifically to every subject, financial accounting. So financial accounting has different topics. First is the accounting standards. For accounting standards, Ranker's materials is sufficient. I would suggest that you concentrate on the important accounting standards. There are few accounting standards which are often repeated in the examination, like AS2, AS6, AS7, AS9, AS11, 12, 13, AS 26 and AS 10. So these are the common accounting standards which are tested in the exams. Though there are 30, it may not be possible for you to revise all the accounting standards or study it at the first go due to the volume. So I would suggest that you concentrate on these accounting standards before at least revise them twice or thrice before you go to the examination. Nextly, within financial accounting, there are certain topics which are important, certain topics which can be dispensed if you don't have time or if you find it difficult. So the important topics first is amalgamation. So every exam invariably a question from amalgamation comes. If not from amalgamation, the question is asked from internal reconstruction. There is alternating mechanism between these two topics. 1 year you may have sums from amalgamation, the next year you may not have, but the sums from internal reconstruction would be there. So try to ensure that you cover all kinds of adjustments, all kinds of sums from these two topics. There is no question of omitting or skipping these topics. So this is the second thing. And there are certain topics, fringe topics, like buyback of shares, employee stock option schemes. Though listed in the syllabus, the number of questions from these topics are very limited over a period of time. So this paper 1 of commerce and accountancy basically has two parts, part A and part B. Now what we are discussing is all about part A in paper 1. Now that we have covered financial accounting, moving on, we'll have the subject of cost accounting. Unlike financial accounting, wherein some amount of by-hearting is required in forms of the standard, the rules that you need to follow in order to present the financial statements, cost accounting doesn't have any such by-hearting. The entire subject is all about analysis and analytical thinking. If you are to understand basically what the cost concepts are, what the costing techniques are, and the measurement of cost, you will be able to solve any kind of sums. So I would suggest you put in a good deal of time in understanding the fundamentals of cost accounting. Many tend to skip it during the course of preparations. There were a few friends of mine who skipped preparing for the cost accounting topics because they found it difficult. At the outset it may be difficult, but then once you get an understanding of the basic topics, it becomes easier for you. The book list which I used again was similar to what I used for financial accounting. One was the Rankers materials and the second one was the CA Institute materials, the practice manual. For the practice manual, once again has the CA practice manual. It has a variety of sums. For some of the topics I used the CA interlevel material, some of the topics I used the CA final level materials. The topics split between inter and final has changed today from what I had read 6-7 years back. So I would suggest that you take up the UPSC syllabus, compare it with the CA inter and final material before deciding which material to prepare from. And one more important thing which I want to share is that it is very, though paper 1 appears to be a numerical paper, it is very important that we build a balance between the theory part and the numerical part, because we have compulsory questions. The first question and the fifth question are mandatory questions, and as far as the mandatory questions are concerned, they are full of theory. So a good number of questions are asked from costing topics in the first 5 mandatory questions. So I suggest that all the topics which have theory, such as budgeting, because we consider certain topics to be fringe and leave it out, but it is important that we cover theory in those topics, like budgetary control, process costing, the basic cost concepts and the concepts of cost measurement. In all these topics, it is important that we cover theory part. So the right balance between numericals and theory part should be maintained. And now, after covering financial accounting and cost accounting, we have income tax. Income tax, it is a very dynamic paper because every year the provisions keep changing. Every year with budgetary amendments, the older provisions go for a toss and new provisions come in. For income tax, I solely relied on the CA Institute's inter-level study material. The reason, as I mentioned, the provisions kept changing and I couldn't use the older version of Rankers materials, and also the sums in the CA Institute material are of very good quality. Then more than numericals, it is very important that we have good hang over the theory in income tax act, because there are multiple questions are asked both in the mandatory part as well as the optional part in the paper one. Income tax theory has a very good weightage, topics like residential status and topics from the income computation from income from house property. All these topics have a good theory presence, so we have to concentrate on those things. When coming to the numerical part, invariably one full question wherein we have to compute the income of an individual, where multiple incomes are given, like income from salaries, income from house properties. All the heads of income are basically covered, and among all these heads, it is very important that we give greater emphasis to income from the head salaries. Multiple provisions will be tested, determination of the value of perquisites. Because of the voluminous nature, we tend to leave these aspects out, but it is also very important that we cover these topics as well, like valuation of perquisites, determination of allowances that can be exempted, and that has to be taken into consideration for income computation. So all these aspects has to be covered. And one more important thing, the doubt which I had during my preparations was that provisions of which budget would be applicable to our civil services examination. For example, if you are taking up the civil services examination 2026, the budget of 2025 would be applicable for the exams. That is, the budget which was enacted in the month of February 2025 would be applicable for the 2026 mains examination. Then the next subject is auditing. Auditing is quite straightforward subject. Though practically talking, in the world of CA practice, auditing is a very profound and a deep subject, which involves huge amounts of analysis. As far as the UPSC examination perspective, auditing subject is quite straightforward, because the syllabus has very clearly stipulated the entities whose audits would be tested in the examination, and every entity has specific audit points that needs to be covered. Coverage of those points is more than sufficient for taking up the audit paper. For example, there are few stock points which can be used in all the types of audits, be it in the case of commercial organization audit, be it in the case of NGO audits, or companies or partnership organizations. There are a few points which are common, checking of fixed assets register, checking of the operating expenditure, checking the capital expenditure, whether the expenses are properly capitalized, and depreciation has been charged on the capital expenditure, whether the TDS has been deducted and has been remitted properly to the governmental organizations. So such way, there are few common points which can be used and recirculated among all kinds of audits. So it is important that we identify these points. And apart from these regular audit topics, we also have additional topics like investigation, about which the study can be made. For this, I solely relied on rankers material, because they had comprehensively covered the audits of different kinds of organizations. So we have covered the discussion on part A of the paper one. Now going to part B. Part B is all about financial management and about financial markets. This is the financial management component is a very important part of the paper one, and is also very high scoring. Once again, the Pareto's principles very much apply to financial management as well. For example, if we are to one way to cover topics in working capital management, cost of capital, planning of capital structure, and capital budgeting, they would ideally be covering almost close to 85% of the financial management topics. The rest of the topics too are important, but then the importance to be given to the topics which I stated first are more. As far as the materials which I followed for this, again stays the same, with the greater reliance on CA Institute materials, because the sums that were given in the rankers material here was limited. So I used the CA Institute's inter material for practice. Within financial management, I'll going into the micro topics. For working capital management, greater concentration can be given to computation of working capital requirements. There are multiple aspects like inventory management, receivable management, creditor management, but greater importance can be given to computation of working capital requirement, because every year a full question is being asked from the particular topic. And moving forward, in the planning of capital structure, there are certain topics like the different capital structure theories, the Modigliani-Miller model, the net income approach, net operating income approach, the traditional income approaches. Either of these capital structure theories are tested in every examination. So it is important that we also practice these things multiple times. Then it is very important that we intelligently use the options that the UPSC examination question paper gives us. So not all the questions are mandatory. As far as part B is concerned, only question number 5 is mandatory. Of the 6, 7, 8 questions, we can either choose 2 questions or 1 question depending on the number of questions that we choose in part A. Here we have to be little smart and intelligent in choosing them so that our marks can be maximized. We should choose those topics wherein we are more comfortable rather than going by the topics which we like the most. At times, the reason being that though a particular topic we don't like them, the standard of questions asked from a particular topic may be easier in an examination. So it is better you go with those topics which have been tested easily in the examination. For example, in the 2022 attempt in the part B, there was a question from ratios and analysis. So I always liked the topic ratios and analysis, but then the difficulty of the sum was of extreme level in that particular attempt. Unfortunately, I didn't realize what I had proposed a few seconds back in that attempt. I ended up taking that sum, wasted lots of time, but couldn't derive the right answer for the question. So I had a miserable mark in paper 1 in that mains attempt. So my advice would be that choose a particular sum among the optional sums which are non-mandatory based on the difficulty level rather than basing them on your liking. So this is the first part of part B. Second is financial markets. Financial markets, again, it is fully theory. There is nothing analytical in them. It is all about a little bit of understanding and more about by hearting. This topic has greater interlinkages with our GS paper 3. If we are to cover this topic fully, we can forego our preparation time to the extent of 10-15% when we prepare GS3 topics, because there are multiple topics in GS3 which have connections to financial market component of paper 1. Now that I have broadly shared the books and the sources that I had used for my preparation, I would like to state a few things which I had used during my preparation, the few tips and tricks which I had used during my preparation days. One is the note making strategy. So the note making strategy, we can divide it into 2 parts. One is so we have covered the paper 1 of commerce and accountancy. Now paper 2 is all theory, unlike paper 1 wherein we have equal weightage to theory and numericals. Paper 2 is completely theory, full 250 marks is about theory. We have 4 subjects in that: OT, OB, HRM, and organizational theory, organizational behavior, human resource management, and industrial relations. So all these subjects are similar to the humanities subjects. All these subjects involve some amount of by hearting and little bit of applications. For the paper 2, I fully relied on rankers materials. Though there are standard books in the market that is available, I would suggest that you restrict the book list to any one coaching institute or any standard list of books which you had studied earlier, so that you can be saving time. In my case, I didn't cover these subjects during my CA days or company secretaryship days. So I took the rankers materials and fully relied on them. So those materials are examination oriented, because all those topics which have been given in the UPSC syllabus sheet are very much covered in the material. So you can go with that. So these are broadly the materials that I'd use for my examination preparations. Next, moving forward, I will share a few important things that can be executed so that we have a better output in the commerce and accountancy paper. First is proper note making. So since paper 1 has theory and numericals, the entire note making for this commerce and accountancy option we'll split into theory and numericals. As far as numericals are concerned, I always had this something called library of adjustment. which I used since my schooling days. There were certain adjustments in certain sums which used to be challenging. How many ever times you keep doing it, it appears new and it appears to be confusing. So what I do is that rather than practicing the entire sum when I'm undergoing my revision, I just note down the adjustment and briefly explain in writing the challenges involved in the adjustment and how to go about it in a sheet of paper. So that way, whichever sum that had adjustment used to find space in my sheet. So like that, I had a 15-20 page booklet covering close to 40-50 challenging sums. So this way, what happens is that you try to cover each and every adjustment in all the topics, so that any kind of challenging adjustment you face in exam, you will not be surprised, but then you will be able to handle them with tact and deftness, reducing the time that is involved, and also the error that you will, the chances of you committing an error in those challenging adjustments will be reduced. So as far as numericals are concerned, this is a very good strategy. Then coming to theory, there are certain topics which are theoretically which are highly relevant from the examination perspective, and certain topics which are not relevant because those topics always finds its place in numericals rather than in theory. As I was mentioning earlier, for example, if we are to take financial accounting, topics like accounting standards, topics like buyback, employee stock option are more relevant from theory perspective rather than from the perspective of numericals, because seldom questions are tested numerically from these topics. They are only asked in the theory questions. Likewise, in cost accounting, the cost concepts, then topics like divisional performance management, responsibility costing. So all these are tested only from the theory perspective and not from the numerical perspective. So in this regard, good reading of the previous year questions will help us in discriminating between different topics that are numerically and theoretically relevant. So once we are able to understand the division of weightage between numerics and theory part among different topics, we can also make our notes accordingly. And during note making for this theory component, it is very important that we don't sit and write each and every point elaborately. If we have to do it, we will be making up a large book which becomes unwieldy, which becomes as large as the book which we are reading from. So it is very important we make the notes concisely and crisply. For example, for every 5 to 6 pages of material that you are reading, it is better to have a half page note in your own language, so that it is handy at the time of revision, because we just have 5 days before the commerce and accountancy paper after the general studies paper for revision. So having those things in mind, it is important that we make short and crisp notes that enables us to recollect the entire portions and the entire content, rather than having a note which covers all the components that are placed in the main standard notebook. Now that we have covered that we have discussed about note making, second important aspect is about writing tests. So mock tests are very important component in the preparation strategy. Though we are experts in the subject, though we have all kinds of knowledge, it all goes futile and waste unless and until we know how to reproduce it on the paper. So writing is a different skill set from studying and being clear about the concepts, because the writing has to be done in controlled conditions. We have a standard page booklet. For every numericals, we'll be given 3 to 4 pages. Theory questions, we'll have 2 pages or 3 pages depending upon the marks that are allotted to the question. And the number of hours that are given to us are very limited, so we just have 3 hours. So all these add to the challenge of answer writing. This can be managed positively only if we are to practice it before the judgment day, and for this it is important that we keep writing of answers. Though we'll be attempting full length test right before the examinations, I would also suggest during our preparation days, it is important that you also undertake daily answer writing. So there are multiple benefits associated with daily answer writing. One is that you will be covering the syllabus consistently if you are to break down the entire commerce and accountancy into small topics and write tests based on them. Because as you are writing everyday tests, you will have to prepare before writing it. So you will be covering small chunks of portion every day. And ultimately, you will be covering the entire portion. Second is that as you are covering small chunks, your note making is also easily facilitated. This is the second benefit, and the third is that ultimately your presentation will improve. So over a course of time, as you keep attempting more and more questions, you will subconsciously develop the skill and expertise for writing answers for the various questions from the UPSC examination perspective. So these three things, these three outcomes can be achieved by writing more and more tests going forward. So now I have shared my views on note making, answer writing, and the third one would be with respect to solving of previous year questions. Unlike other options which are dynamic, commerce and accountancy optional, except for income tax, is not dynamic. It is static in nature. So it is highly probable that a few questions which were asked in the earlier attempts are repeated again, though with a different phrasing and different words. For example, if one were to see the questions that were tested from the topic accounting standard over the course of 20-25 years, you will find several repetitions. If one were to go to the topic of human resources management in paper 2, you would find that the question talent management would have been asked n number of times. So there are few topics which are asked again and again. So if you are to concentrate on these topics, you will be reducing the amount of surprises in the examination. So the prediction, the ability to predict the questions that could be asked in the exams comes about. And since you have already prepared these topics, you will be better able to use the optional questions that are found in the paper. For example, you always have internal options between second, third, fourth, and the 6th, 7th, 8th questions. So since you are already prepared in these topics, the topics which are often repeated, the few topics you can also omit during your preparation days or revision times by concentrating on the more important topics. So these are my experiences that I have gained during my preparation for the optional commerce and accountancy. I hope the various points that I have covered, the various ideas that I have discussed with you will very positively help you towards the progression towards your goal. Wish you all the best for your examinations.